Welcome to Capitol Spotlight. My name is Dave Barber, coming to you this day from the East Gallery of the Rhode Island House of Representatives. We like to take a few minutes before session and talk to members of the General Assembly about some of the things they've been working on and its impact on our state. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to welcome back a gentleman we've had the good fortune of interviewing many times before, the Honorable State Representative Jay Edwards. Representative, it's good to see you.
It's good to be back, Dave.
And I know that you've been very busy along with your colleagues here in the House, and one of the things I know that is very important to you as 2014 moves forward is some legislation that you've entered in the past, and you're doing it again this session, and it deals with tenants, notification of tenants when they're being evicted. Bring us up to date. Tell our viewers a little bit about that legislation.
Well, this is a bill I've introduced for the last 6 years. This is the very first piece of legislation I ever had written, and quite frankly, the first 2 years I had it written, it was not a really good bill. But now we've actually had a lot of time to work on it, and it's been really worked through. What it does is, right now, if you are a landlord and your property gets foreclosed on and you have tenants in that property, what happens is the bank steps in, they foreclose on the property, and they immediately evict all the tenants. It's called no-fault foreclosure. What this bill would do would allow the people who are in good stead, who are paying their rent, who aren't damaging their property, allow them to continue to rent the property, but only rent it from the bank. When the bank sells the property, then the tenants would have to leave. It's just a normal course of business.
Well, I would think, Representative, that would be good for the bank. I mean, why would they? I can't believe that they would be resistant to something like that. I mean, you mentioned if the landlord or the tenant is in good standing and paying their rent on time, et cetera, wouldn't that be better for the bank than having an empty building that could be subject to vandals?
I've always looked at it as a win-win-win. First, it's a win for the people who get to stay in their property. Second, it's a win for the bank because they continue to have income on the property. And third, it's a win for the city or town that they're in because the bank would then continue to pay their taxes for that property quarterly. Right now what happens is the bank forecloses on the property. They don't pay the taxes until they actually transfer the property to somebody else, and then they bring everything up to date. This bill came about on my end because when I first was elected, before I'd been sworn in, the people who lived 2 houses from me were evicted from their house because they rented the house, the property was foreclosed on, and then they were thrown out. And they had 2 sweet little girls, and fortunately the town of Tiverton was nice enough to keep the girls locally in school, and then the people had to move.
Well, and not only that, but the tenants get blindsided. They may have no idea that anything's upside down or things are going badly, and in fact, I mean, I hate to think the worst of some people, but maybe they're paying their rent and that landlord is not utilizing the money to pay that mortgage payment, and they may just be putting that money straight into their pocket.
While that's not really prevalent, it has been known to happen. And this particular renter who lived up the street from me, they contacted the bank. The guy really tried to pay his rent to the bank. And then he came and contacted me about it, and I said, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is a law in Rhode Island. So I've been working ever since to change it.
You mentioned 6 times. Do you feel good in 2014 with this legislation?
I felt good all 6 times, Dave. So hopefully this will be the clinch.
Well, again, I don't see this as a partisan issue. I just think this is just good common sense, and I'm pulling for you on that. I think it's good for Rhode Island. I know another thing that you're concerned about, as well as your constituency, is the whole Sakonnet River Bridge thing,
yes.
The tolls. Where's that going? What's going to happen? Bring us up to date.
Well, we've had the commission hearings. The commission hearings, we had them from September till December. We've had our findings of fact, and now the 2 senators who were on the commission with me and myself are drafting legislation out of the findings of fact to bring before the General Assembly to, number one, fund our infrastructure long-term over a 10-year period and get money that is predictable and sustainable for the Rhode Island DOT, and also to keep the toll off the Sakonnet River Bridge, and also to keep the toll intact as it is right now with no increase on the Pell. So that's really important to all those people who live in those areas.
Well, it certainly is. And I think what's really also important, and again, not to get too inside baseball, you're looking at maintaining our infrastructure long term and doing it in a comprehensive manner rather than piecemealing and picking on certain areas or certain bridges in order to tax, because our infrastructure is vitally important.
And one of the ways we've looked at it, Dave, honestly, is we've looked at it without increasing any fees, without adding any new taxes. We've looked at what's already out there and dedicating navigating it slowly but surely towards what it's really caused, what it's really meant to be for, is our infrastructure. That's the most important thing we have in the state of Rhode Island, is our infrastructure.
Yes or no? 1 year from today, when we bring you back to be a guest on Capitol Spotlight, will the folks using the Sakonnet River Bridge be paying some sort of toll?
Cautiously optimistic that that will be the case.
Okay.
They will no toll.
All right. Well, listen, I thank you so much, Representative Edwards, for joining us. My best to you and your colleagues in the House.
Good to see you again, Dave. Thank you.
And, of course, thanks to you, too. You make it all possible. For Capitol Television, I'm Dave Barber.